And then finally, there's a progress section. So as a teacher, you can go in and see your class progress. How did they do on every page in that lesson? Um, how are they scoring in grammar? All of those kind of things you can find in here. Okay. So just to touch on some of the other things we have in Burlington English here, we have a new student orientation to help students learn how to use Burlington. We have some digital literacy videos for students and some practice lessons for them to do to learn how to do really basic tasks, anything from holding the mouse and dragging and dropping something on the screen to using the keyboard to type in their username. Um, really great for people who are newer to computers. Um, our EL Civic strand, this English in America curriculum, is a 3-level course. And when I was teaching, this is what I was teaching with, because core was not invented yet. But this course has some really great content around, citizenship, things like that. That can be really helpful for students working on their citizenship exam. Um, this career exploration and soft skills course is a 3-level course. And the first part of this course takes students through examining their own values and skills around careers, what they would like to learn. Um, it lets them explore the 16 different Department of Ed career clusters and do some research on those. And then the second part is all of the soft skills that we need. So, um, we want students to get a job, but we also want them to do well and thrive in their career. And for that, the soft skills are really, really important. And then new in this section, we also have a 3-level grammar course. So this was recently added based on teacher request. So we're always kind of adding new things based on what teachers are asking for. And recently teachers said, we would like to do some more isolated grammar practice. So that's what this is. It's all individual grammar lessons that we can assign or use with our students. I'm just going to go back home. That's all under that courses strand. So a ton of curriculum. And if you're still with me here and you haven't gotten overwhelmed by everything that's in there, I'm gonna pop into this English for specific careers section next. Here we have over 180 different career courses for your students. Um, they have vocabulary practice that they can do. They have full courses on the soft skills needed for different careers. And there's also going to be courses on, what is a day in the life like at these different careers? What kind of skills are you going to need? There's plenty in this section that I don't know how to do. I'm not sure how to be an internist, but we've got a course for that. Um, and then we also have some exam preparation where students can do practice standardized assessments. These are correlated to the CASAS assessment, but even for folks who aren't using CASAS, these can be really, really helpful for alleviating test taking anxiety, talking through test taking strategies, and going over those competencies that are really so important for our students. And then last of my big tour here, we have a readers section. So this section is all classic books that your students can read or have read out loud to them. These are really, really great for family literacy activities. I've seen students read these books with their kids. I've had students who will just listen to them as an audiobook and say, teacher, I'm learning English and, cooking lunch. So there's a lot of nice content in there too. All right, I'm gonna go back here under courses, but I'm just gonna pause. Have any questions come up for anyone so far? And I see we have Noel on the call too. Noel, um, if you're able to unmute and chat, We would love to hear from you for how implementing Burlington English has gone with your program.
Hi, everyone. Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad I could make it today. Hi, Sue. Hi, Jenna Rose. Hi, Marcia. Yes, I just wanted to jump on this call because Casa Guadalupe Education Center, I've been directing Casa Guadalupe, a nonprofit organization in Washington County, for 10 years now. We do work with adult learners. We have, up until just recently, been using a variety of curriculums, hard copy books and workbooks with our students. But we just recently transitioned to using Burlington English. So since this summer, I've been getting to know Jenna Rose and Sue, and we've been training a lot of our teachers. So we have semesters of classes with paid teachers, but we also have volunteer tutors that meet with certain students individually, one-on-one, on like a weekly basis. And so, yeah, we're just preparing as many as possible to learn about Burlington English. And I've now seen a lot of the trainings. I have actually helped teach a couple of classes. I've had to like substitute. And I have to say, it is so user friendly. Sue and both Jenna Rose, like they're very approachable. They're so helpful. I've been trained now on even like how to train students as well if the need arises. And I love that there's 6 levels. I feel like it's like customizable. They're there to help problem solve, when we have like multiple levels together in a class. I haven't even like touched the tip of the iceberg, I guess, maybe like just a little bit, but like with like all the lessons. But as Jenna Rose mentioned, there's so many offerings within Burlington English, and we have just gotten started with it. So I'm excited to continue to explore those options and give advice, to the teachers too, or the tutors, depending on their students and their goals. But I'm super happy thus far with Burlington English, and that we've transitioned. We've been wanting to do something that's more digital too. I think for some, there's like just a small percentage that are a little more hesitant to move towards a more digital approach, but we've been really trying to tout its benefits, especially like if we have tutors that may be hesitant. But I love that it can be used on any electronic device. A lot of our students do use their phones, the majority of them. So we kind of like look at it as really enhanced, Duolingo. You get that free app, but it's like this has so many more offerings, so much more that you can do with Burlington English, I feel. And it's right at your fingertips. And so, our students so far have had really good feedback as well. And so thank you. Thanks for allowing me to share my thoughts on Burlington English.
Absolutely. Yes, thanks so much. Yeah, we've been really glad to work with you. And that's one thing I'll say too. Sue and I are here to support. So we're not just going to get you started with Burlington and then say goodbye. We check in on everyone every month and make sure everything's going well. Um, Sue helps train in all the new teachers and then leads classroom orientations to help students get the app on their phones. But we're really, really here to support and make sure everything works smoothly for you. Whether you have, 5 students or 1,000, we work with everyone. All right, I'm gonna go ahead back and share my screen and let's walk through a lesson together so you can see what this looks like. So I'm just again gonna go into that high beginners level and I'm gonna go into this lesson plan section. So there's a couple of different things we can look at in here. One thing I'm going to pull up is just our placement chart. So you can see where we place students in these levels. Each of these 6 levels just aligns to that NRS level. So if you're using BEST, you would look here. If you're using TABE Class E, you would look here. And then we'll show how those assessment scores correlate to the content that we have. Gonna close that guy. And then I'm gonna pop down here to these lesson plans. So let's see, can someone from the audience choose which unit we go into? Number one is personal information, and then here are the other units. You can unmute or put it in the chat. Okay, I see someone said 6, so we'll go here in the workplace. There's 8 lessons in each of these units. So we're always going to start out with working on our listening and speaking skills. We're always going to end each lesson working on writing. And then in between, we're working on grammar, reading. We've got videos, with adults, working on adult ELL problems, and also life skills lessons. So can someone else choose which lesson we look at today? Always makes it a little exciting. All right. So we've got 8. So we've got a writing lesson on an apology email. So I'm going to open up this lesson plan here. Each of our lesson plans is 3 pages long, so you can always expect the same thing each time you open up a lesson plan. The first page is going to give you an overview. And when you see here, it says teaching with that ICL, that stands for in-class lesson, that takes about 90 minutes. They also give you some optional expansions to make those lessons last a bit longer. So if you want to remediate with your students, if you want to work on this content more, you can always expand it. Um, when the students do their student lesson, it usually takes them about 60 minutes. And most folks have students do that work outside of class or at home. But some folks also have students do their student lessons at school. I know when I was getting started with my students, I had them do some of their student work at school because they were really new to computers, needed some help with digital literacy. So then I could help them when they were getting stuck on those kind of issues. We've also got our lesson correlations right here. So each lesson is written directly to the correlations that we need for adult ed. So you don't have to kind of, take content and try to retrofit standards on. This is really written directly to those standards for you. The second page of each lesson plan breaks down what you're going to be doing in that in-class lesson, so page by page. So here we're asking them to do a whole class activity before you even open up our lesson. You can write these words on the board, you can scramble the letters. So we're working on some of the vocabulary from earlier in our unit and just kind of reminding students about that. Um, this is a really flexible curriculum. So if you have a different warm-up routine you want to do with your students, that's okay too. But for me, I was a newer teacher. I didn't have, a whole packet, a whole toolbox of activities that I could use. So I found this really helpful because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's all here for you. So if you're in that kind of situation like I was, where you've got 10 minutes to get ready, and in those 10 minutes, all of your students are coming up and asking you questions and chatting. This makes it pretty handy. Next in our lesson, we're using our in-class lesson. So it says we're going to work on activity 1 and activity 2. We're going to introduce the lesson, and we're going to start eliciting students' prior knowledge. So I'm going to hop back over to Burlington English, and then can everyone see where my mouse is up by these little 3 dots? Okay, so these little 3 dots, just let me get in between those 7 parts of the course really easy. I don't have to go back to a different place or try to find where it was on the website. I can just use those 3 dots and say, okay, bring me to the in-class lesson portion. And we're working in unit 6. We're looking at lesson number 8. So here are all of the pages I have to teach this content. Remember, first we said we're going to introduce this topic to our students. So we're working with adult learners. I think it's really great to be clear with them what they're going to get out of this lesson. What are the objectives? Today, we're going to be using expressions for apologizing, and we'll be using formal language. And then our second page was where we said we're going to start eliciting prior knowledge. So we want to see, what do students know already about this topic, and get their brains kind of warmed up and ready for this. So we have a teaching tip here. You can always hide these if you want, but I find these pretty helpful. Um, this one is saying, when businesses make a mistake, they often send the customer an apology email. Um, so that I think can be helpful, because that's one of those sometimes cultural things that isn't, the case for everyone. So it can be a great thing to explicitly talk about, that that's what might happen. You might get an apology email. Next, we're going to read sentences and answer the question. Which sentences would you see in an apology email? So we'll choose answers. We can get our class talking about each of these. And we can check answers when we're done. It'll tell us if we get any wrong, and then we can go ahead and correct ourselves. So what I really love about this is the teacher part, but we're really preparing students for doing their lesson too. Because as the teacher, you're modeling, what do I do when I get an answer wrong? How do I correct it? And when students do their homework, they're going to have a really similar screen with similar buttons. So it's a really nice contextualized way to start teaching those digital literacy skills with your students. Okay, I'm going to pop next back into our lesson plan. So we looked at activities 1 and 2. Next, we're going to work through activities 3 through 6, where we'll have students analyze a model paragraph. So I'm just going to pop back to Burlington English here and just touch on these. Here's where we're kind of analyzing and breaking down some writing. So before we have students do their actual writing, we're really going to break down how that writing works. We've got numbers here on this picture. I can click this plus sign to make this fit much bigger on the screen. And then I can answer these questions. So I can ask my students, who wrote the email? And as a teacher, I can type in what they say, or I can say, show first answer. And then the system will fill it out for me automatically. Another nice thing I'll point out is, while you're teaching, you have this really handy teaching toolbar. So you can use this to do different things on your screen. You can underline, you can highlight, you can add circles or squares to cover different portions, or highlight different sections. You can add lines. You've got a whiteboard you can use. I really like this flashlight to just focus students' attention on a particular part of the screen. You've also got these slides that you can use to cover specific parts. You've got a timer. So you could set a timer and say, okay, students, we're going to be writing for 3 minutes, and have that run on your screen. You also have a scoreboard. So this is really fun, because you can kind of turn any activity into a game and say, okay, team A, answer question number 1, team B, question number 2, and keep track like that. Makes everything pretty interactive and fun. And then you've got a little text box that you can use too. Okay, we just looked at one of those pages. I'll page through the rest here. Here we have another teaching tip on expressions for apology emails. We've got another one on formal language that we use. And we're just answering questions. We're breaking down this writing in different ways. to help students understand what they're going to be doing when they do their own writing. So I just hopped back over to the lesson plan here. For activities 7 and 8, we're going to have students plan the email they're going to write, and then we're going to have students write that email with their plan. Um, and anytime you see this little red symbol here, that's just telling you there's a worksheet that goes along with this part. So here we're working on writing our apology email, and we're going to complete a plan to prep for our writing. So we get to choose a workplace, a problem, and a solution. And we're just going to map that out here. Um, Again, we've got that little icon saying there's a worksheet that goes with this. So I'm going to use my same little 3 dots and hop over to that worksheet section of the course so we can see that. And it's pretty smart. It puts a box right around the worksheet that I need. So I can go right in here and say, yep, I want this worksheet for this writing activity. And it's the same thing that you have on your screen, but you can print it out and have students fill this out if you want them to do something, with paper. Um, it's also a fillable PDF. So this was another request that was made. So teachers can fill this out on their screen and model it for students. Um, or students can fill it out on their computer and email it back to the teacher. While we're in this worksheet section, I'm also going to point out this is our lesson expansion. So remember we said we'll have an extra 30-minute expansion activity we can do to make this lesson last a bit longer. Here we're doing a peer assessment where we're going to read our partners' emails. So we're really teaching our students how to use some of these assessment rubrics that they might be using, in higher education. And then we're going to have them revise with that checklist and redo their assignment, make improvements. Another thing I'll point out in this worksheet section is at the end of every unit, they give you a module test and an answer key that covers all of the content in that unit. And then my favorite thing I think is super handy is if you click on this little page with the magnifying glass, I can say, give me a packet. I want a packet of all these worksheets and everything for this lesson. It gives me a really nice cover page so I can print out a whole packet of the unit and give this to my students. And then I don't have to print every single day, it's just all ready. Okay, so here, just to peek back at our lesson plan, we went through page 2. Page 3 of that lesson plan is going to tell us about that worksheet we just looked at and what the students are going to be doing in their portion. I'm going to close that guy, close that guy. So of our 7 parts, we looked at these first 3. Those are the 3 that the teacher would use in their class. And then just to pull up the student lessons, we can see in that same unit, they have unit 6, they have lesson 8. They're going to have content that mirrors what you did in class. So they'll have a get ready page. It has a bit less text, but it's telling them what the lesson's about. Their second page, we're using some of that vocabulary that we've practiced for this lesson, which parts are an apology and which parts are what the business is going to be doing, what their solution is to that problem. Next, students are analyzing. So they have a really similar email to what you had in your classroom lesson. They've got the letters numbered just like you had there. They've got the greeting and the closing just like you had there. And they're going to be doing similar things. They're going to be answering questions about that writing to help them, again, just kind of break down the parts of an email, the parts of an apology email, similar to what we did in class. They're really just breaking down all of those parts and getting extra practice. In our last section of the student lesson, they're again doing the same planning activities that we did in class, so that gets reinforced also. And then when they get to their final writing assignment, they'll have a box that they can type in here. So they can type in their answers to that writing assignment. They have a list that helps them check and revise their writing. So once they finish, they can check, did I apologize? Did I explain what I will do? Did I invite the customer back? They also have a really nice model. So I can click on this model symbol in the upper right and move this over. So as a student, I can see an example that I might be able to model my writing after. And I can check and make sure, my writing has those same components. Then I'll save my writing to my portfolio. And that's where, as a teacher, you're going to get a little blue notification that your students submitted their writing and you can go in and make comments on it. I'm going to pop back out here. The vocabulary practice section of a lesson is going to pull out all of the vocab from the lessons that introduce vocab. So if we look down at that same unit we were working on, Unit 6, we can go to number 8, which has just 2 vocabulary words we introduced in this lesson. We can also say, let's just look at all of the vocab for that whole unit. Quite a bit more that we've covered in that unit. And students have the ability to listen and record their voice. When students are recording their voice, it's actually a pretty sophisticated system. So the speech trainer system is listening to that student's pronunciation down to the phoneme level. So if you imagine a test tube for every sound in the English language, when your student makes a mispronunciation of one of those sounds, it puts a little token in that test tube. And when they've consistently made that mispronunciation, it's going to give them a targeted speech course for their exact sound issue. So this will flash for them in the upper right.
As in heat.
And this speech course is really targeting that exact sound that the student is struggling with. So I can listen to the trainer's voice.
Hotels.
And I can compare that to the student voice.
Hotels.
So as a student, I can start listening for what's different in my pronunciation than in the trainer's pronunciation.
Hailstorms.
Hailstorms.
The second section of this course is going to show students, how do I move my mouth to produce this sound?
You are not saying you are saying eat instead of heat. To say the sound relax your mouth and breathe out strongly. Heat. Eat. Heat.
All right. The third part of this speech trainer is going to have students listen. So they're listening and training their ears for really hearing that sound.
Always.
Okay, no H. Oh, that man looks angry.
Harsh.
Harsh, okay, he is. So we'll put him in that column over there to practice that H sound. And then finally, your students are going to practice. So they're going to listen again and record their voices pronouncing that H sound. So this is where the system is looking to see, have they made an improvement on this sound after going through this course, or is this something we need to work on more with them? So yeah, students can record all of their pronunciation. It's all going somewhere and being tracked. For their vocabulary, they can also star words to their own personal list if they want to have specific words that they come back to and practice more. And then they can also play fun games with their vocab. So there's crosswords or spelling games. Um, and one thing I'll just point out that I think is really neat is Burlington does the translation for students. So the two parts that'll get translated are the vocabulary words and their instructions. So when you make their account, you set whatever their first language is. And this way, when students are learning vocabulary, they can see it translated into their first language. All right. So we won't go into this portfolio. I don't think we've got quite enough time today, but I'm available anytime. So if you guys have any questions after this or want to do more one-on-one, we can definitely go deeper into any of these areas. I just clicked on the progress section, so the last section of this course, and here's where I can see my students' scores. I can sort this by a specific time period if I say, just show me what they did last month. I can run different filters, so everything from, okay, show me all my students who are scoring under 80. I want to look at the students I really need to work with and target. All kinds of different ways you can use that filter there. My favorite part of this progress section is I can go in and look at an individual student and I can click on their name and find that exact same unit. So let's say, okay, unit 6. Oh, I locked that one for that student. I was practicing that earlier. Goofy. So I'll do an example with an earlier one. If I had done Unit 1, Lesson 1 with my student, I can see he only did 1 minute. But I can click on this little completion circle. I can see how he did on every individual page. And then I can click on my class name and get my class average. So this is my really like fast way to be able to remediate with my students, to use that data in a really tangible, useful way. I can say, okay, look at my class. On average, they got 77% on that second page. We're doing good here. But on page 3, they're scoring 34%. So that's giving me a really quick clue that I might need to reteach that vocab. It could be a digital literacy issue, and I might need to, have Sue come in and help them learn how to record their voice. But it's really letting us use the data that students are creating to work with them and remediate. Okay. So we just walked through, one lesson for Burlington English out of one unit, out of one curriculum strand. There's tons and tons and tons more. But I'm going to pause because I've been talking for a long time and just open it up for questions here. So we'll spend the rest here with some questions. So any questions that have come up or anything else you'd like to see? Hopefully no one is caught in a tornado.
Generous, I have a question. This is
Yeah.
Anna.
Hey.
So could you talk a little bit about how the seat purchasing works? And so like if like how it might work for somebody who's instructing a small group and someone who's working one-on-one, like how do they get teacher access or how does that all align?
Definitely, yeah. So Burlington seats, so we sell the student license, it's $96 annual. So let's say you've got a class of 10 students, then it would be $960 for the year. And everything is included in that price. So we don't charge separately for teacher licenses or for training or adding new content or anything like that. It's just all together as one. It's actually been the same price for 10 years, which I think is really neat too, because they've done everything from making it work on mobile to online to adding new content. Um, but yeah, essentially, as long as you, the teacher, know that your students have a license, you're free to use that content, any of the curriculum. Um, and the seats are transferable. So let's say you started out with a class of 10 and then you had some folks drop. You can remove that account, you save all its progress and username and password. So if that student comes back, you can restore them back in. Um, but if they're not coming in for a few months, you can remove them and put someone else in that spot.
So just to clarify, so let's say I had 5 learners and they each had an individual tutor they're working with. So then 5 tutors would also have access then to
Exactly.
the teacher. Okay, great. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got we've got people who use Burlington in different ways, right? Sometimes it's a full college classroom. Sometimes it's like with Literacy Services of Wisconsin. And with Casa Guadalupe, we've got some tutors working one-on-one with students. Um, so that's also kind of nice because we can take that training part of training the volunteer off of your shoulders. And that's where Sue can come in and work with that volunteer in class to make sure they're comfortable teaching the content. Um, when it comes to volunteers working with students, I've seen it happen a couple of different ways. Sometimes the volunteer will just work one-on-one and they'll share the in-class lesson, they'll walk through the teaching content um, and really teach the lesson. And another way I've seen volunteers work with students is supporting students when they're doing independent work. So maybe you have a computer lab where students are doing their homework and a volunteer might float around and help answer questions.
This is Anna. I have another question.
Awesome.
So could a learner just work with the online component of Burlington English without the worksheets and the teacher lessons?
It can. Yeah, it definitely does happen. I think it's, of course, we want to find a way to support the work our students are doing. So we never just want to sign them up and say, okay, you're going to learn English now. Um, so we want to check in on their progress, and come up with a plan for how we're going to support that student who isn't going to be attending class. But I have had that happen too. Mhm. Yeah. And those worksheets, they match up perfectly with the in-class lesson. So they really do kind of tie together. If you're playing an audio clip in the lesson, then the worksheet is going to be filling it out. So it doesn't really make sense to just do the worksheets. You would want to have those go along with the in-class lesson.
Okay, this is Anna. I have another question.
Yay,
Can this,
love it.
would a student be able to find a worksheet on their own, or is that only through the teacher account?
Right, you're right. Yeah, so only the teachers have that access. With a teacher account, you get access to those projectable lessons, the worksheets, the lesson plans, and you also have access to all of the student content. So that makes it kind of nice when you're showing students their homework. You can open up that student lesson and show it to them. Um, One thing I'll point out here too with the student lessons, because these are online, let's say I want my students to do this exact lesson, writing an apology email. I can copy this address and just send this directly to the student. So they can click on that link and it's going to open them up right to this exact lesson. And then, oh, another thing I'll show you guys too while we're on this topic, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to go under these tutorial videos. So we've built a lot of things to help students get started in Burlington, including some helpful videos on how to download this on your phone or how to use this on a computer. So if I click on this video here, I can play this, but I've got this option to have it played in different languages. So let's say I've got a new Ukrainian student and I want to show them how to put this app on their phone. I'll play just a sample of this so you can see.
Доступ до курсів Burlington English з планшета або смартфона. Щоб отримати доступ до курсів Burlington English з планшета або смартфона, знайдіть наш додаток у Google Play Store або Apple App Store та встановіть його.
All right, so I'll pause there, but it's just going to walk them through how to download that app and how to get signed in with that first language. We also have subtitles, so English subtitles. If you've got, a big class of students with lots of different languages, you might just want to go for that version. But you can send these to your students individually to help them with some of those different tasks. All right, any other questions from folks or anything else you're wondering about or would like to see a bit more of? Okay, so if not, I think we should pull up our screen again here. So if you have not yet entered into this drawing for a $50 Amazon gift card, you can take out your phone and scan this code. And then Sherry's gonna go and, oh, she might be ready already. Do that drawing so we can see who wins that gift card, just as a way again to say, thanks to everyone for coming. Thanks for being awesome educators.
Well, and while we're pulling that together, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was fascinating. I am just always amazed at the volumes of information that is in this. And I would encourage everybody who's on the call today to reach out to your regional consultants to see if you're covered in any of the grants for this program. We'll be happy to work with you. And if not, I know Jenna Rose and Sue and everybody will be happy to work with you as well. But thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And no, I didn't blow away to Oz. The world outside is quiet now. So yeah, but what a crazy day. Wow.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
and I'm encouraged that the other Southeast Wisconsin people that I saw coming on the call managed to be here as well. So I think that means everybody's good. So
That's a good sign.
yeah. So do we have a winner yet?
All right, I'll turn it over to Mary. she's probably, oh, she's got the winner.
Okay.
Lubra.
Catherine, congratulations.
Oh,
And
we might have
who
lost
was
her.
it?
Oh, she's not here anymore, maybe.
No,
Catherine.
I'm here.
Oh, wait,
Cattherine's my first name. Nicole is my middle name.
Okay,
Oh.
good.
Sorry.
And tell us what program you're with.
I'm with Literacy Services of Wisconsin. I'm the current interim program manager for ELL.
In Waukesha, right?
I'm at the downtown location.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. That's
So
right. Yes.
I just started in September. So this is all new to me. I never used this before, but I know that our program support specialist is trying to get it working. We're having a little bit of trouble, but we've been in contact with Sue. So hopefully we'll be able to
Okay,
figure it
good.
out.
Well, and now you know so much more about it than you did when we started. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been great.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And so before we all sign off, anybody have any other questions for Jenna Rose or Sue or even anybody else on the call? You know, maybe somebody who's used the program Noelle, I know was here. I'm assuming she's still here. Yeah, we'd certainly be happy to hear from you. Okay, all right, good, good.
Yes, and I'm just putting my phone number and email in the chat so you can feel free to reach out to me. After this, my phone number you can also text me on. And we'd be happy to come to your program, answer any questions in person. I'm so glad you were all able to join us today and no one got blown away in a tornado.
Right, right. Jenna Rose, thank you again.
Of course.
And Sherry, thank you both. And thanks to all of you who were with us today. And hopefully we'll see you all again next time.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.